70.3 finisher, baby. Third worlds, third finish. Oh man, about half mile from the finish, I realized what I was about to do and I got pretty choked up. It's a pretty awesome feeling. And I know it's a privilege to not just be here, but to be able to cross that line. So I don't take any of this for granted. I don't take any of the cheers out there for me for granted. I had people from all over the world cheering me on, calling me by name, and I saw them all multiple times, and it just, man, it boosts you, let me tell you. Not a 100% smooth day for me. Swim was fine, it's about what I expected. I don't even know what it was. It was 40 something, I don't know, whatever. The bike, 10 miles in, went to go get into the small ring, dropped the chain. Never done that in my life. So pulled over to the side, I got it fixed, got back on. About mile 30, switched gears again, dropped it for a second time. Never done it in a race ever, and I did it twice today. But still happy with the bike. Everything else went smoothly for the most part. At the aid stations, they gave us big bottles, which I'm not used to. My cage isn't quite set up for that, so at the second aid station, that's when I swapped out my bottles, and from the second aid station on, I had difficulty getting my water back into my cage just because it was such a tight fit. So the other day we drove the course, kind of reconned it, and we noticed that there was tape at all the driveways throughout the entire course. And they taped off every single driveway. So it was a completely closed course, both directions the entire 56 miles. Top of the level, top notch. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more than that. But since the people of the towns outside Lahti, they couldn't go anywhere, so they all came to their driveways and they all cheered us on. They had their Finland flags and signs made for us. I gave them, hang 10, and I said Cait the best I could. I'm sure they could tell I'm not Finnish and obviously from USA, but I wanted to show my appreciation to as many of them as I could. And as you can tell, I'm a horse, so there is a big climb at mile 55. Pretty steep, punchy thing. And I made dang sure before I approached it that I was able to get into my small ring, and luckily I didn't drop the chain. It was a little bit of a doozy, but it didn't last long, so got up it just fine. But then on the other side, it was a no passing zone, which is fine. It all worked out well. The only thing was right before the dismount line, maybe about 15 feet before the dismount line was a timing map. And I think there was probably about 4 cyclists ahead of me that thought that was the dismount line. So there was a little bit of a pile up at the dismount line, and I think I dismounted even before the timing map, but I couldn't go anywhere because they were blocking, but it's fine. Man, I came out of T2 guns blazing. Man, I was hyped up. The crowd support right coming out of the T2 was just insane. And saw DJ and Katie and Colin and others we've met along the way, and man, I was booking it. But it was a dirty trick. There's this nasty little incline bridge you got to go up just outside T2, but it was fine. But it's a doozy going back down it. There are some steep declines, so you had to really be careful with your footing. Honestly, I almost bit it on the very last one just before the finish line shoot. The run went great. Stuck to my nutrition plan. One aid station gel, the next aid station base salt, rotated off and on, water every time. Worked out really well, but about 5 miles in, I was like, I could probably use the restroom, but I just kept fighting through it because I wanted to be done more than I wanted to stop. But about mile 9, 10, I was like, I'll probably run better if I just take care of it. So about 9 or 10, I stopped, about 90 seconds and I was out, and I felt so much better. So it was actually worth it. And I felt like I finished strong the last 3 miles. Man, the emotions really hit just before the finish line. And I got to that finish line, I had it to myself. I let the lady from South Africa, she had her bit just before me, and I saw that there was another lady not too far from me, and so I got to that finish line and I embraced the heck out of it, and I just let out my best roar that I could and just let the world know that I'm proud to be here. So, as you know, we went off in age groups. My age group went off over an hour before Tiffany, so I can't wait to go out, figure out where she is, and give her my best support, because without her, I wouldn't be here. Without me, she wouldn't be here, so I want to give her that support that she gives me all the time.
I'll say this, first of all, I love this country. The Finnish people are tough people, but they are also kind and supportive. And I think that's also a testament to the course we raced on. It was tough. It was intense. It was soul crushing. At the same time, it was unbelievably beautiful. There was never a moment that I wasn't caught up in taking in the sights or making sure to tell myself to take a look across the landscape and see just the different change in terrain and the countryside and the Finnish people in the middle of nowhere sitting out on the side of the road cheering so politely. Thought it was going to be a pretty flat course and fast. Turns out there's no flat anywhere on the course. Maybe the swim. The swim might have been flat, but everything else was mostly up, a little down, and very tough. So this medal definitely earned by everybody who crossed the finish line today. I got my wetsuit on, stood around, talked to Colin and Cait for a bit, and then I made my way into the corral, very last. But when I went around the corral, Caitlin had finished her swim and Colin was holding up his phone. And I mistakenly saw the first time on the screen, it said 45 minutes. And I was like, ah, man. And Colin's kind of giving me this look. And I looked at the bottom number, which was her swim time. And her swim time was 42 something. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. I know she's gonna be very happy with her swim. And the 45 I saw was actually her cumulative time, and then she busted out like a 4.5 minute T1. So I knew it was gonna take me at least 7 minutes to get out of T1. Got to the dock, heard the beeps, just kind of cannonballed in, got some water in my left goggle. I was like, you know what, this water's so clean, I don't care. So I had water in my left goggle the entire way, kind of inhibited my vision a bit, but you know, I was doing pretty well. I felt good. Everything felt really nice in the water. Followed the buoys and it seemed like I was ticking them off pretty good. I mean, I almost thought, hey, is this a downstream swim? I feel like I'm making good time. A little zigzag. There was some chop on the water. Kind of felt like it was pushing me towards shore, so I had to really be cognizant and work really hard to stay on the buoy line because I feel like I kept kind of getting pushed inside, just due to the current, the wind, whatever. But I was having a good swim, felt good, and I saw the finish and I'm like, all right, kick it up a notch, come on now. I never looked at my watch, so I didn't know what my time was until I got to the stairs and I saw that I had a 36 plus swim time, and I was really, really, really happy with the swim time, considering that I haven't felt like I've been on my game in the swim the last few weeks. But you know, that was something that I accepted because I knew I wanted to focus more on trying to get stronger in the run. So sacrifice a little bit of the swim, but for sacrificing and still turning in a 36, I'm really pleased with that. The water was about 67 degrees, had water in my goggle. When I was getting out, I was a little disoriented from the cold water. And of course my lower back doesn't do well in cold. So I was pretty tight, not really mobile. So I had to get some help up the stairs. I mean, I wasn't blazing through T1, but I was trying to not take too long. Got my stuff, and again, kind of just the focus of what do I need to do, and kind of having that swim fog brain, and still being a little cold. Dried off. Caitlin had the great idea to put towels in our bags so that we can dry off so that we wouldn't get cold on the start of the bike. Did that, and I think that was a great call. When you're the very last wave, it's easy to find your bike. So I got my bike, made my way out of transition. Little did I know that there was going to be a lot of uphills, a little bit of downhills, and like no flat. So it looks deceptively easy on the course map, but it was not easy at all. One of the very first climbs, like in the first 2 miles, there's kind of a steep uphill. I was in my little gear, little chain ring up front, and I was trying to get back in my big ring for a downhill that was coming up, and it just wouldn't catch. And I'm like, all right, well, I know I can't go downhill with no chain. So I pulled over, got it on the ring, was good to go, kept going. No real dramatics, which is kind of how I was hoping for the rest of the way, except for the first aid station. I dumped my water bottle, and I took the hand up they gave. Well, the hand up didn't fit in my cage the way my cage was set up. And so I had to make a decision on the fly. Can I keep this bottle either on me or between my aero bars for 50 miles? And I was like, I'm not gonna trust it because I'm gonna worry about that the entire way. So the only other option I had was to pull over and make a change to my setup of my bike bottle. So my bottle cage, luckily I had the multi-tool and the Allen wrench, took it off, put it on my down tube in the back so the bottle would fit in. Well, I got some battle wounds from trying to do that when I was getting in my kit to get the multi-tool out. It's really hard plastic on the QR, and I just gashed my finger pretty good, and my whole hand was just dripping blood probably for about 5 miles. I'm like, I don't care, it's battle wounds, it's gonna be a point of pride, you know? So if I'm bleeding all over the place, whatever, I don't care. I'm finishing this race. I think you get to mile 50, and then you have Chickamauga. You have like a 2 mile slow grinding uphill. Not only do you have Chickamauga, if you've done Chattanooga, you know what I'm talking about. That's at like mile 50. Then at mile 55, only 5 miles later, not even 5 miles later, you have Andrews Hill. So you go into a steep uphill. And I thought about that the entire way. I'm like, I am not gonna let this hill get in my head. I'm not gonna let this hill defeat me. And there were about 4 other women that were making their way up the hill at the same time I was. And I'm like, I am getting up this hill. And so I just went into another mental gear, and I just did grind up that hill. Like just everything I had, I knew the finish line was close, so I didn't care. I was just gonna grind up that hill. I am very curious to look at Strava to see if I was close to Caitlin's time, because I feel like I did a much better time than I probably should have done. But I got up that hill, made it into T2. I was so glad. I could feel my legs. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel on this run. I don't know how I'm gonna do 13.1 miles. First 2 miles did not feel all that great, but I had so much energy coming back to me on the run course. I saw Katie, I saw Colin, I saw Matt, I saw Caitlin, I saw Tigress and Biggie, and I saw so many people that follow us on social media, and it just seemed like every kilometer almost, there was somebody, go Team Saunders. A lot of people were on their last loop as I was starting my first loop, and I'm thinking like, man, it's gonna be pretty vacant by the time I come through the next time. But I did the stadium, and then I was out, and then probably for a couple miles coming out of the stadium, it's pretty much net uphill the entire way. It's a long, slow grind, and I just felt like, oh man, am I ever gonna get my legs? Am I ever gonna feel decent on this run? And once I got up to the top of that long hill, I settled in. I ran for maybe another mile, and then I checked my watch. I saw my pace, and I'm like, wow, I'm actually running faster than I thought I could, faster than I thought I would, and I was running much faster than I did the first 2 miles. But I did everything I could today. It's a tough course. I don't even know what my time was, but honestly, a lot of people had asked me what's my goal. Really, my goal was to finish. St. George really hurt me, and St. George has been an open wound for a long time. As much as I don't want to dwell on it, it still happened and it's still there. Last loop, I just wanted to get done. And also, the last loop, I spent most of it thinking about my dad. So tomorrow will be 12 years since I lost my dad. And it's always really hard, but I wanted to be here because he always wanted me to go live my dreams, and he loved the competitiveness in me, and he raised me to be tough. And I think there was a lot of unfinished business, and I wanted to be tough for him. And I just channeled all those times as a kid, pitching softball, bowling practices, anything that I wanted to do, he was there for me. He didn't really see much of my time in triathlon, but I know without a doubt he would have been right there pushing me, believing in me, and knowing that his girl was gonna get it done because she's one tough lady. And so when I got to the finish line, I couldn't help but just pay a little tribute to my dad, Corey, and Tanner, we lost earlier this year. A lot of emotion, and I'm just proud. And right now, there's really nowhere else I want to be.